the annual meeting of Addison Housing Works, where I am very pleased to present our 2023 annual report. And I, of course, am Elise Schanbacker, the Executive Director. So we had a lot of highlights in 2023, but to pick a few to showcase in our report, we had our rebrand, revealing our new name and logo and our new identity in the community. We had a lot going on the development front. We were in construction on 2 projects, Firehouse Apartments, and actually 3 projects, 2 manufactured housing community infrastructure projects. On the property management side, we had a busy year. I'll share some highlights. I'll talk about housing people who are formerly homeless, then get a little bit into our resident services highlights, our financial performance, and just thank some of our supporters, sponsors, staff, and board. Kicking off with our new name and logo, which I think you're hopefully pretty familiar with by now. We hired a firm, London Middlebury, to help us with this. We did a series of stakeholder interviews and focus groups and a survey to really hone in on what we wanted our new name and our new logo to be while staying true to our mission. And some of the things we heard in that process, making housing affordable at every income level, creating opportunities, and helping Addison County be the best place to live. So we hope our new logo and new name really captures that identity, and I think it's been pretty successful. So moving on to our real estate development activities in 2023, we both created new homes and we had some projects to preserve what we already have and make sure that it can stay permanently affordable. So our big new construction multifamily project was Firehouse Apartments in Bristol, which is the first permanently affordable housing in Bristol in almost 30 years. Prior to this development, Bristol had just 9 permanently affordable non-age restricted apartments and then 16 affordable apartments for seniors and people with disabilities. The building features community gardens, a community room, outdoor social space, access to the Bristol Trail Network, and an office for on-site staff as well. 4 of the 20 apartments are dedicated to people exiting homelessness through a partnership with John Graham Housing and Services, whose staff are also able to use the meeting space at the property. So the gardens that you see in process there have been finished. I think, have we had our community garden opening day?
It was Saturday.
It was Saturday.
Yeah.
Awesome. So really excited to see that get going. And then we also had a group of Middlebury College students come and do a focus group in the community room at Firehouse, which is the other picture you're seeing there, to talk about affordable housing needs and barriers in Bristol. So thanks, Brian, for participating. Yes, it was. Yes, in Thursday's Addy Indy. Check it out. So these are just a few success stories of folks who moved into Firehouse. Mary was able to move back home to Bristol after some years away. She's really happy to be near her family again, and she's also very happy to be out of a walk-up efficiency apartment and into a home that better meets her needs. Doug in the middle there is a father of 3. He moved into a brand new space with support from some of our community partners, Laura Morris from CVOEO on the left and Jess Horner from John Graham Housing and Services in the middle. And they're just really looking forward to having their own space after staying with family for several years. And then on the right, Nancy moved into a brand new unit in Firehouse when the home that she had lived in for much of her adult life became unaffordable for her due to the rising cost of living, including flood insurance, which is an increasing problem for Vermonters, as we know. So she's pictured there with both our leasing agent extraordinaire, Alice Cannell, and family support coordinator, Precious Chamberlain. So moving on to the manufactured housing community infrastructure project front, this is part of a 10-year total redevelopment plan that Addison Housing Works is implementing in our 9 manufactured housing communities with the goal of having First of all, long-term sustainable infrastructure for the people that live there, but also healthier homes, better wastewater treatment leading to cleaner waterways, and it's an environmental justice issue for manufactured housing communities as well, who are often more susceptible to the impacts of climate change and disproportionately bearing those costs. So the first major project that we were in construction on was at Lindale in Middlebury, which is a community with 67 homes. 48 of those had septic systems dating back to the 60s. The residents were suffering from frequent backups. If you can imagine your septic system backing up into your washing machine and how horrible that would be. And then the frequent pump outs we had to do to keep that from happening were really straining the budget. So this project took over 5 years to develop, and we had to pull together $5 million from 12 different funding sources to make it happen. So we were very excited when we broke ground in April of 2023. The project was substantially complete by the end of the year, and residents were connected to the new system in time for the holidays, so that was really exciting. The crew is back there this spring mobilizing just to do punch list items and paving, and there are 2 homes that need a special pump to get connected onto the system, so that's just the finished work they have to do, and that one will be totally done. The other project we undertook in 2023 was a new water system for a 9-home park in Moncton, right near North Ferrisburg. Vaughan, and more than half the homes in Vaughan are new within the last 10 years. It's seen a lot of improvement to the housing stock there, so we really wanted to obviously make sure that those new homes were connected up to functioning new infrastructure. So that was a $400,000 project that was fully funded by Vermont Housing and Conservation Board and some reserves. It replaced a water system that the engineer had described as an accident waiting to happen. And indeed, we had some extended water outages at the time due to corroded parts in the pump house. So we completely rebuilt the pump house, completely replaced all the components for the well, and then all the components for the distribution system, so all the water lines, all the mains, and then we were able to pave the road to reduce the ongoing maintenance cost there, because that park is kind of on a blind curve, so people peeling in and out is really taking a toll on the road. And it just makes the park, look really nice and a place people can be proud to live. So that was a nice project that really wrapped up some much needed improvements for that park. So shifting over to property management, the bread and butter of what we do every day, which is providing permanently affordable homes and try to address homelessness as well. So we had 68 new families, seniors, and individuals who moved into a home with Addison Housing Works in 2023. Of those, 39 leased an apartment and 29 purchased a manufactured home, including 3 that were new homes moved on to formerly vacant lots. So again, improvement of the housing stock in the manufactured housing communities. We completed 1,920 work orders, which is probably an undercount, totaling $1,342,917 in repairs and improvements to both, that includes our apartments and our manufactured housing communities outside of those big projects. And then $75 million is now the replacement value of the multifamily housing that we are managing in Addison County now, according to our recent insurance renewals. So focusing in on people who were formerly unhoused, of the 39 people who moved into apartments in 2023, 14 had been homeless, were exiting homelessness, so 36%. And now almost 22% of our apartments are dedicated to households who were formerly unhoused. The state passed some legislation in 2023 calling for 30% of new lease-ups to be for people exiting homelessness, so we exceeded that And then an executive order from 2016 requires that at least 15% of our units be dedicated to formerly homeless households. And so we're exceeding that as well. We did have some people who had been homeless and housed with us. 11 did exit, and they were, of those, most of them were unfortunately negative exits, which just draws attention to how high the level of need is in the community for additional supports to help people be successful in their housing. And another kind of statistic that shows, you know, there's still a lot of barriers remaining, in addition to not having enough housing. When we had people apply, people who hadn't been homeless had a 56% chance of having their application approved, while only 30% of people who were formerly homeless ultimately had their application accepted. So it's still very hard for people with housing barriers to get into the affordable housing system. So we are trying to tackle that with our resident services programs, and we did a lot in 2023 with that. So in 2021, we launched our family support program. So this was the third year of the program. In 2023, we have one family support coordinator, Precious. She served 104 households that included 68 children over the course of 2023. And 96% of the people who participated remained stably housed. Not everyone that she helped was at risk of eviction. About a third only needed additional services like connection to a food pantry or other service provider, but 2/3 were at risk of eviction, and most of those were ultimately able to be stabilized with some extra support and connection to other resources and other service providers in the community. 22 people only required one touch, very light support. 25 were in the program for 1 to 6 months. 11 were in the program for 6 months to a year, but 46 have been participating in the program for more than a year. And people, it just shows, you know, people, some people don't need support, you know, they need one thing and then, you know, or maybe a couple of things. And that's all it takes, but about half of people really need chronic support, ongoing support to maintain stable housing. This 2023 was a little different from prior years. We served 29 people, or 29% of the people we served were living in manufactured housing communities, and a lot of that work was getting people through the application process for some of the programs that are the relief programs that the state rolled out to help people repair unsafe or uninhabitable conditions in their manufactured homes. What are we up to, Tori? What's our grand total now as of 2024 for MHIR?
I feel like it's 179,000.
Yeah, it was over 100 last time.
Yeah, that's all precious.
So we've helped people get almost $180,000 in repair funds for their manufactured homes. Then the other 70% of people were residents of our apartments. So our other resident services program is STASH, which we've had since, I think, 2012, 2013. In 2023, we had about 148 participants, which are not just residents of Addison Housing Works. That program has a housing hub with Addison Housing Works, but then, you know, if we only have 25 people in the hub, but it needs 100 people to support a full-time service coordinator, there'll be 70 people out in the community that program is serving too. So it's mutually beneficial. Our residents get this resource and then get to share it with people in the broader community. And just a few like quick stories from that program this year. Maria actually also helped a resident access money through the MHIR program. That was to repair a furnace. Our lead coordinator, Diana, in the middle there, she hosted a fraud prevention presentation. That's been very much on the rise and a big problem. So bringing that into Armory Lane, and 9 seniors participated in that. And then Sue just got a lovely message from a participant's family member in her panel saying, "Gratitude from the bottom of my heart. I honestly don't know what we would do without you." So that program is really touching a lot of people. All right, don't worry, you don't have to read this. This is financial performance. I'll just read off the highlights. Obviously, you all have a QR code on your agenda where you can download the annual report and, take your time. These are, our auditors are mostly done with their work, but not completely. So these are still internal financials prepared by management, but they do have most, if not all, of the adjustments that the auditors have given us in their work so far. We did have, so these statements are for our consolidated financials, so our general operating budget, as well as those properties that we either wholly own or have a controlling interest in. So that's our manufactured housing communities, as well as a few of our multifamily properties as well. So we had a net positive income of $241,000. That was mostly in our general operating budget. We had a large grant come in at the end of 2023 to fund our family support program for 2 years, 2024 and 2025. We also had some developer fees that were accrued in 2023 but will be received in 2024, driving that net surplus, net income. So those are the highlights from our financial performance. This is income and expenses by source. So as I said, property management is kind of our bread and butter. But it also doesn't entirely pay for itself, which is just, important to know that in keeping rents affordable, it does take public subsidy and community support to keep these properties in good condition and operating. So you can see our real estate development is on an income basis, a little over 10% of our budget. Our SASH makes up 8%. Our shared equity program was very small in 2023. I didn't have any highlights because we didn't actually have any transactions, but we've already had one in 2024 and are anticipating another one. So we're seeing that pick back up, which is good. Fundraising at 3%, and then some unallocated administrative grants and expenses too. Kathy, do you want to say anything about finances?
I think you summarized it well. If anyone has any questions, we managed a lot of grant funds in this year. Made it quite interesting at times.
I'm sure that's the word that
word.
comes to mind.
That's the word.
But it was worth it. That's what's important, right? So that's really the end of our 2023 annual report presentation. I just want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank all of our volunteer board members, all of our donors who helped us raise over $112,000 last year, that little fundraising piece of our budget, which is so important because it's essentially 2 full-time equivalents for us, and that's really important to be able to serve our residents well and serve our communities well with attractive, well-run, affordable properties. I want to especially thank Detman Law for being our season sponsor for 2023. I'd really like to thank our outgoing board president, John Barstow, as well, who's been an amazing boon and resource for the community.
You all made me look good, that's all.
You can actually stay for a minute if you like, instead of going back. There are a few more slides in the strategic plan update, but before I start that, I'll just ask if there are any questions about the 2023 presentation, and I will stop the recording.